I'm going to call to order the Monday, March 9th, 2026 regular meeting of the Village of Franklin Council. Could you do the pledge, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Abbott, roll call, please.
David Goldberg,
Present.
Trustee Pam Hansen,
Here.
Trustee Daniel Ferris,
Here.
Trustee Abigail Mapes,
Here.
Trustee Angelina Palaka,
Present.
Trustee David Sally,
Here.
Trustee Jeffrey King.
Here.
Thank you. Any comments on the agenda before we adopt it? Anything? If we get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Hanson, second by Gates. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Three sets of minutes, two from special meeting, well, I'm sorry.
The closed minutes are in your envelopes.
Yep. Let's start with the regular meeting of February 9th. Anybody have any comments?
No.
Get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Solly, second by Gates. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our closed session minutes of February 9th also. Any comments? Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Gates, second by King. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last, our special meeting of February 10th. Anybody have comments?
No comments.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting.
Second.
Motion by King, second by Gates. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public comments. So, anybody in the audience who would like to address council, if it's something not on the agenda, feel free. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Hi, Daniel Rosenberg, live on Denison. I've been meaning to come here. It's been a while since we got our new stop signs. I just wanted to show gratitude and appreciation for the council, Chief Lawson for getting those up. It's been so helpful. It was like it's crazy because like I'm on Romsey in Denison and we go down Denison one way and it's safe, and then Romsey, we had such an issue with people flying by, our neighbors, delivery people, and everyone else, and getting those stop signs made a world of a difference. So I just wanted to, been just meaning to come just to like show gratitude and be really thankful, and just like it got me thinking. I have 3 young kids. It's not just about families like me. It's about like creating more safety in the village, pedestrian areas, and I think making these type of improvements makes such a world of a difference. So I'm really grateful that you guys prioritize this. I know some of these things take a while, but I feel like it took a while, and then when it was happening, it happened, and the stop signs popped up. So again, just prioritizing things in the village that focus on safety for families, pedestrians, people walking dogs, is just so important and crucial. And I feel like this is emblematic of something like that. So again, thank you for the 5th time. I'm very grateful for it.
Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mr. Simon.
Everybody, I'm John Simon of 3032 Old Kincard. Because the present Franklin Council, you guys, have decided not to develop a code of ethics, and whereas 22 other surrounding communities already have one, a group of concerned villagers has decided to take on the job declined by the council. The people making up this group include Franklin residents who are concerned about the character of Franklin and those who represent it. This group will develop their own code of ethics. which will eventually be presented to the village in an unfinished form. They will ask for further input from interested residents and will welcome for consideration additions, subtractions, and modifications. The comments and suggested changes will be considered in the formation of the final document. This completed document will then be available for all the village to read and will hopefully serve as guidance for village organizations, including the village council and administration, to help them in their day-to-day actions and decision-making. It is hoped that this will encourage everyone to act more ethically and with greater responsibility and integrity. It will not serve to punish, but will be used to commend good behavior and to criticize poor, unethical behavior. The purpose of a code of ethics is to strengthen the trust and effectiveness of our local government. Ethical standards will help promote civility, respect, and professionalism amongst the council and staff. It isn't about correcting past behavior. It is about building a foundation for trust, fairness, and accountability while going forward. The code will also ensure that Franklin will be known for its good government and civic pride. Although this group recognizes that the code will not be sanctioned by the village council, it is hoped that the council will agree with most of what is proposed and see the benefits that can be derived from adopting it. If they choose, they are welcome to use this code that we've developed as a foundation for creating their own code of ethics. Finally, I ask, why wouldn't any village government welcome a code of ethics? In conclusion, I quote Burt Wood, Franklin's first historian and great-grandson of Daniel Wood, who was the third person to settle in Franklin. He said, "We who now live in Franklin must accept the responsibility of being both the caretakers and of the past and the authors of its future." Thank you.
Thanks, John. Anybody else? Okay. That'll close public comments, reports of village officers. Let's start with Chief Lawson. Hello, sir.
I believe all of you have reviewed the monthly report for February. You might have noticed that traffic citations and traffic warnings are up substantially. That's probably due to the warm weather and the officers like to get out of their cars a little bit more. And then also we did a lot of community engagement, which I always encourage our officers to do. We had the Birmingham Youth Assistance Dog Show. We were at Bingham Farms quite a bit doing lockdown drills, also a ribbon cutting ceremony. And then we had several officers who participated in the Special Olympics polar plunge. So that was kind of the highlights for February. And then I believe all of you got the annual report, and I'm sure you love the officers showing up at your house.
Love it.
My
Yeah,
daughters
love
were
it.
thrilled.
Love it. Any questions? Sure.
Not a question, a comment. Officer Jones delivered my annual report, and I really liked the format. It was less focused on statistics
Right.
and more focused on allowing us to get to know our PD. I hope that you can make that report widely available. I really liked it and had a chance to talk with her about it. So,
Good.
thank you.
I know Evan is going to put it on our website and also in the newsletter, a link. And obviously Stephanie, our executive assistant over there, she did that report, a little bit of my input, but she did all the heavy lifting. So, and the idea is to kind of humanize the badge a bit with this annual report. So I think we did that.
That's great.
Files were great, helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All
Chief.
You've all received my written report, electronic written report, whatever it is. But if there's any questions, I'll answer. But I just unfortunately want to put a little bit of a temper on this wonderful day we're having because it's going to be snowing potentially later this week. So just wanted to let everyone know that although it's 72 degrees and shorts and short sleeve shirts are wonderful, don't forget about inclement weather and preparedness. We are approaching Severe Weather Awareness Week, which will take place next month. We'll be starting off with the severe weather siren testings on the first Saturday of the month. The one that was supposed to take place last week was canceled because of the actual inclement weather that we were experiencing. So while we relish the good times, please prepare for the not so good. Pending your questions, that'll conclude my report.
Anybody?
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, we have 4 items on the consent agenda. Monthly check run, the temporary contract for our treasurer finance director, who's working on Fridays, and then the approval of the library director contract itself, and then the contract between the village and the library board with regard to leasing the library director. All of the contracts were included in our packets. Anybody have any questions that would want to take it off? Otherwise, all we need is a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second, but I have a question.
A motion by Hanson, second by Salaka. What's the question?
The term is post-dated by over 2 weeks. Is that gonna be an effective contract for Linda Vance?
Yeah,
Is it fine?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I just wanna make sure it doesn't nullify anything. Okay.
All right, no further comments. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We have a presentation from Oakland County Health Network supervisors and co-responders.
So I'm excited to have our friends at Oakland Community Health Network here today. My good friend Hillary Nussbaum is the co-responder supervisor here in Oakland County. And then we have our co-responder, Kimberly Craighead. And I will, yes. I will pass it over to you guys.
Kim is going to pass along our PowerPoint presentation in case you guys want to take any notes or have any questions, and we'll kind of go from there. So we did a little PowerPoint just to kind of intro you to the co-responder team. Obviously, you've met Kim. This is a little bit of an outdated picture. We need to update it, but
Thank you.
currently we have
Nice to meet you.
10 co-responders here in Oakland County, and we are embedded within 20 police departments in Oakland County. So you can go ahead and hit the next one. A little bit about OCHN. We are community-based, local public mental health system that manages support and services to persons with serious mental illness, emotional disturbances, intellectual developmental disabilities, infant mental health, and then substance use disorders. So most people who receive services through Oakland County's mental health system have Medicaid coverage or no insurance. So we help people get connected to Medicaid insurance if they are not already connected. You can go ahead to the next one. And then here's another, like, a little collage for you of some of our co-responders. Down here we have Kim, you can recognize the face. And then, again, just some of us, you know, we have changed colors throughout as we've morphed into the program. We've been, you know, going for probably about 5 years, and we started in green, and now we're in blue. So that's a little bit about us, and you can go ahead to the next page. I'll turn this over to you, Kim.
Do you want me to go over it? You feel like you already kind of went over that. Okay, so our clinicians from OCHN are embedded into the police departments itself. So I personally, my desk is located in West Bloomfield, but I come out and visit and stay and dispatch to Franklin as well. We aim to just partner with our police. The benefit to having me into the police department is we have OCHN network partnerships. So when I come in contact with families, I'm able to connect them with any resources through OCHN that they might need. Case management, therapists, like Hillary said, Medicaid coverage, therapeutic groups. Here's some of the main ones I'm missing.
That's good. You go for the next one too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially how this works is I have a radio. I listen for the calls to come out. Anything pertaining to a mental health substance call, mental health substance, fatalities, family troubles, suicidal ideation, any types of those calls, I will self-dispatch and I will meet the officers on location and then kind of get a debrief from the officers, and then I will enter the scene once it's safe to do so, and then I begin my interactions with that person or family. From there, I can also offer follow-up, so I do a lot of stuff on the back end as well. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So, I'll go into this in a second. But I do a lot of like back end stuff too. So let's say the family does identify that they need Medicaid. I will then, later on that day, go with the agent, connect to the agency that they're gonna be using, give them the heads up that this family is coming or calling, let them know what they're gonna be asking for, and then I assist that family with either finding ways to get there or ensuring that they get there. So on scene, again, I will help with de-escalation, suicide assessments. I help the officers with petitions. So let's say we do have a suicidal individual, we will go to the hospital together, and then I will walk through the petition with the officers. Or if an individual has like a frequent amount of calls, they can petition and I will go to the courthouse and pick up the order for the officers, and then we will go and complete that petition order as well. Again, providing lots of resources to our families. And even if it's not through OCHN, I had this in Franklin maybe a couple weeks ago. I had a kiddo that he already had a therapist, but he was lacking support within the school day. So I helped the family connect with their social worker at school to make sure he's supported during the school day as well. So even if it's not in our network, I can still help facilitate any support that they need. Assist at fatalities. So a lot of times at a fatality, our officers have a lot of jobs to do. So I kind of take over with the grieving family. I offer them support. I want to know stories. They'll show me pictures, carry a box of tissues, but a lot of consoling. So that way the officers are able to conduct their investigations, contact the ME, and do what they need to do. And then from that, I can even maintain contact with those families, grief counseling. If they need further assistance as well, I can facilitate that. Again, linkage to the crisis and support treatment providers, consult with the hospital and crisis providers. So within our system, I'm able to see, like, let's say one of our residents already has an OCHN case, but we keep coming in contact. I can reach out to like a fellow coworker and go, I've kind of had contact with this person about 4 times over the past 2 weeks. I'm really concerned. I feel like we're missing something because we keep going out, and then we can link up and collaborate on next steps for that person. If I'm not on scene, detectives might have some cases where I would need to follow up. I just had one where the family was dealing with an online security issue with their 11-year-old. So I walked the family on like internet safety for their child, and helped identify like safety apps for them. Dementia, homelessness, APS. So for those types of services, housing or shelters, we do a lot of searching and calling to find shelters for those in need. Same with dementia care, the long-term care providers, getting in contact with them. I've had made APS and CPS calls as well. And then again, following up with their foster care worker, let's say. So I have had that as well. And a lot of follow-up calls with the families, individuals. So even if it's just like the next day, I will call that person to see how the night went. So I had like a teen who was kind of living on their own at the age of 18, and their parents just kind of washed their hands of him, which obviously is a really upsetting scenario, and the kid felt really lonely. So I then facilitate just follow-up calls. What do you need? Do you have groceries? Do you need help getting food benefits? So just checking in on her just to make sure she's doing well from the previous crisis the night before. General coordination, obtain pickup orders from court. Also, I will support the officers. So with this profession, they're exposed to a lot of trauma, a lot of significant scenes. So I'm there to help them too. So even if it's just to help in a debriefing process, or just, hey, just want to check in. That was a really tough call. Where are we all at with our headspace? Just kind of being a support for our officers as well. Here in Franklin, I've spent time doing ride-alongs with the officers just to get to know them, how law enforcement in our city in Franklin functions, and just the area. I've been I feel very honored to be able to be a part of the Franklin community and work with our chief and officers.
Thank you.
And we have a little bit of data for you. Obviously, Kim is fairly new, so we don't have a ton, but you can go ahead and go to the next slide. We wanted to give you guys, since you're newer to the initiative, just sort of get an opportunity to see the number of referrals by our fiscal year, where we started. At the initiation of this program in 2021, there was only 3 police agencies that were on board. That began after training, like in September, so right at the edge of our fiscal year ending. So we really had a month before the end of our fiscal year in 2021, so you can see that number's low. It was about 32 referrals. In 2022, we were up to 6 police agencies. We had 712 referrals overall from our police agencies. And then in 2023, we still had 6, but you can see that number jump quite a bit. And then we moved up to 11 in 2024, in 2,200 roughly referrals. And then in 2025, we got to 16, and that number obviously increased dramatically from our police departments. These are the number of referrals and on-scene calls that we go to. And then, we're still within like the first, I guess we're into our second quarter now of our fiscal year, but that's why we're low. But now we're up to 20 agencies with the addition of you guys and our contract with these 4 agencies. So we're excited to see where that number goes, but you can see that we've really grown and we're busy. We'll just say that. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So for Bingham Farms and Franklin, Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake, and West Bloomfield, you can kind of see the combined referrals since Kim began. So these are broken down by jurisdiction, so you can see like where the bulk of the calls are coming from, which is West Bloomfield. And then March, we really only had stats for the first week when we did this PowerPoint, so it's low right now, but we expect that to go up. We can go ahead. And then finally, I'm gonna kind of step over here. Some of the outcomes, we think this is a really important thing for you guys to see is what does Kim actually do, right? Like when she goes to the scene. So you can see by looking at this graph, there's a lot of attempts to make contacts with individuals. That might be a phone call, that might be showing up at the house, if they're home, if they're not home. It's giving out community resources, making referrals to our access department to get people connected to resources. Talking to our one provider. So if we notice that someone is open in our system, then we're going to reach out to that provider or like that case manager and ask them or let them know what's going on. So we're constantly trying to make those connections. So you can kind of see all the different ways that we're trying to provide resources within the community so far. So it's a great number of things. You can go ahead to the next one. That's it. Does anybody have any questions for us? Yeah.
So the upside here is that by providing more specialized care here, it de-escalates situations and we stop short of perhaps like incarceration and instances where someone might need specialized mental health care instead. So
Yes.
is that the
Do you want to answer?
gist?
Yes, so the goal is to really take those frequent flyers too and really see a decrease with those mental health services that we can put into place. We know they're not going to go away, but at least if we can decrease them is our overall goal.
Yeah, so Jen, to your point, jail diversion is one of those goals for sure. If there's any way that we can turn what would be like a misdemeanor into getting them mental health treatment instead, that's what we'll do, and so a lot of that is the relationship that we establish with our police departments, so.
Do we have any data around how many scenarios have been, we've gotten to the stage where we've avoided jail time, for instance, or that we've de-escalated and
Yes, so
the disparity?
jail diversion includes like a lot of like when we're able to go to a scene, de-escalate and leave them at home, that's considered jail diversion, right? Because they're not going to the next place. Even if we can keep them from going to the hospital or being involuntarily transported somewhere, that is a win for us, and that's considered like, you know, being able to kind of divert away from that system, if you will. So knowing exactly like the number of people that would be going to jail per se, not so much, but we do have like data on a lot of the other ways that we're able to keep them sort of out of the system.
Did that previous slide, do you mind going?
Yeah.
So effectively, we're looking, or I guess I just am wondering, like, are we tracking outcomes on, this is just for this group up top?
Yes.
I guess it's kind of hard with small sample sizes, but like, you had 5,000 or whatever from 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Do you bucket that in any way? Or I'm just building on Abby's point,
Absolutely,
like how much?
We keep track of all that data cumulatively, like throughout all of our 20 departments, and then we can break it down however, you know, we want to. So one of the things that we always offer our chiefs, especially when we have our monthly meetings, is if there's certain data points that they need and they want to bring back to you, we can definitely do that. So if there's certain like data points that you're looking for, by all means.
Yeah, just curious on effectiveness. I mean, I think it seems great, right? Just would like to know how it's working over time.
Sure. Yeah.
At what point in your relationship with a client does your involvement end? How does it end typically?
Yeah, that can be case by case. It just
Okay.
depends on the situation. So I usually, even if I'm on scene, I will still always try to do a follow-up call the next day.
Okay.
Some cases can just be more severe. I don't know if that's or acute, where it might require a little bit longer of work, but it really doesn't go past. It's very short term.
Okay.
So it usually doesn't go past like a week or two.
Yeah.
But sometimes that might be a frequent flyer. So although I might close it, I anticipate maybe a future call later down the road. Oh, that's the goal, is also trying to prevent that. But just on like what they need, it can take a little bit longer.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, our job is sort of to be like a liaison between people and getting connected with community, mental health support. So it's really like we're acting in acute crisis situations, just like police. So we're in a sense like sort of the mental health side of police, where we go and like help de-escalate those situations, get people those resources, and then we have to keep going because you can see like the numbers. If she were to carry a caseload, it would be nearly impossible for her to do her job. So it's some cases last a little bit longer than others depending on what's going on. But it depends.
Thanks.
I know there was a couple hands. Do you have something?
To Jeff's point and Trustee Gates, maybe next year some of this data and statistics could be in the police report, your annual report.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, and work with Stephanie because I think, and he's like Google Analytics, so he'll tell you every KPI that he wants to see. But I think this would be really good for our residents to see.
Yeah, and usually we provide quarterly reports too to Chief, and so he can, as you wish, provide this to the council. But that's really exactly what we do. Is we provide quarterly reports so you guys can see that. We also do like a newsletter for your 4 jurisdictions, so that goes out to like the officers. Because one of the things we've noticed is that officers don't end up hearing a lot of like the follow-up that Kim does, and doesn't hear a lot of like what happens behind the scenes. So we really want, like we created a newsletter specifically to go out to like our law enforcement like officers who are on the road. So
2 questions. So you've been around for 5 years, this entity. How was it done before? And then the second question is, for anyone who's listening to this, citizens would never reach out to you directly. If they need any sort of help, they're reaching out to their respective police departments and they're then directed to you. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, so when I'm not on scene, so if there's a call that has come in where they think that this person or family could use some assistance with me, they put in a referral. It comes directly to me like that night or the minute that they put it in, and then the next coming day I reach out and begin my efforts to get them whatever that they need.
the police put in the referrals just to make
Oh,
clear.
yeah, I'm
It's not
sorry.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
average
No.
citizens,
I just don't want people to like,
No.
oh, you're
And
assigned you.
the officers can also give them my direct number too, so
Okay.
they're kind of making sure it's like twofold. So they'll get my information, but then the officers will submit that referral.
Got it. And how was this done before? So was there any, did this kind of support exist for police departments prior to 5 years ago in
Are you
Oakland
talking
County?
about like in our county or just like anywhere?
In our county, just,
No, not in our county. So I was actually the first co-responder hired within our county back in 2021, and I had Auburn Hills, Bloomfield Township, and Birmingham, city of Birmingham. And so I was responding to those three. It was I laughed because it was kind of like we hit the ground running, and it's like we're just gonna see how this goes. You know, like we're gonna figure this out together, and we've put a lot in place. We've put a lot of like safety trainings in place, and a lot of we built it up quite a bit. So now we have like a whole protocol that we put our new co-responders through to make sure they're safe when they start. We want our officers to feel like they're not going to be a huge liability on a scene. So they're trained by their law enforcement partners. They go through their own sort of FTO training process. That's for them. But yeah, before 5 years ago, we didn't have anything. I mean, we had other like mental health supports. We had community mental health. We still had OCHN, but not any kind of co-response program.
Mhm.
We did have jail diversion. That was still going on, but it wasn't people going out with police like this.
mhm.
Would you be involved in domestic assaults situations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, as long as it's safe. So those tend to have like a high safety
Yeah.
risk. So I will go on those, and I wait for the all clear, and then I go in.
Okay, thanks.
So, all the follow-up work that you're doing and the wonderful referrals, and as you said, some cases can go on longer than others. Is there a certain point in that follow-up process that the resident begins to get charged? Like, how does all that work?
I'll
Yeah, go
take
ahead.
this one. Yes, there is a point where that could happen. It depends really on, every department's very different, right? And it's very situational. If someone is repeatedly, let's say, like misusing 911, and we've put all of our efforts into helping them, like, here's another number, here's an alternative, try 988, try this person, and it still continues to be an issue. I've seen some departments like offer charges, but then if it stops, they kind of drop the charges. Like at least putting something out there to sort of be like, this has to kind of stop, because what our efforts sometimes don't always, unfortunately get to them, so.
Okay, but in general, it's a county-sponsored program, and, all right, that's great.
Yeah.
What is the relationship that you currently have with the schools?
Okay,
Go
so since I've been on board, I have the school resource officer's information. So if there's something that I need to, like a teacher or a social worker, I will contact the SRO, the school resource officer, to find out who that kiddo's social worker is, to link them up. I've also had, like, where a school resource officer would contact me, like, hey, I'm a little concerned about this kiddo. You're making statements today. Can you go do a welfare check? And the officers and I will go out and do a welfare check. And then I will follow up to make sure that kiddo has an assessment.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Good answer.
Excellent.
All right, excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Your information is on the back if you guys ever need to get a hold of us.
I mean, police departments all over the country are talking about programs like this, and you guys are doing it. It's so amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We enjoy it. Thank
So
you.
I will say, just as I've been a social worker for 15 years, and when I first learned about co-responding from other states, it was just one of my like dream jobs that just because there is such a high need. So kind of anxiously waiting for Oakland County to get it, and here I am. So it was no question. So I'm very excited to have this and excited to be here in Franklin.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was informative.
That was really great.
All right, we're going to move on to new business. Rachel, you want to take number 1 or A?
Sure. So what this is about is just approving banks that we, the administration, can use as a depository or as a place to invest surplus funds. So I did some research, provided it in the packet, and have come up with about 5 different banks that are all rated A. And I believe they're all national, or they are all national banks, but they're all safe banks for us to use. And considering the issue that we had recently, I think we need to look at our other options.
So would this mean, all monies that we have in our bank accounts would be shifting over to these, or only specific accounts?
I would move everything.
Okay.
So this, oh, sorry.
No, it's
Anthony.
okay, you go. Oh, wait.
So this is approving a list, but not any specific bank
Correct.
yet.
Right.
Everything's where it is now, and
If you approve this list, then when I hire the new treasurer, or if I do this on my own, I will then already be allowed to choose any one of these that I want,
Gotcha.
or the treasurer wants. We won't bring it back to you again.
Is your intention to use one bank?
Yes.
Just one?
Except for investments. But we don't have a lot to invest, so that's not a huge concern of mine at this point. But looking down the road, if we do wind up with some surplus funds, that's why like the Oakland County Local Government Investment Pool is on here. That's a great place to invest. And each one of these banks has their own bond sales groups, so I can choose from one of those.
Does the state of organization impact our rights or liabilities?
No, it does not.
Any call outs for, let's call it like cybersecurity practices and/or support within any of these banks? Like, are we going to ask any questions around just protection as consumers of these banks?
As we're deciding which banks or which bank we want to work with, we will ask questions like that.
Yeah, I think, okay, we can talk about it.
So effectively, this is basically a go-ahead to get RFP effect to use the services, and you or the treasurer will decide which one you want to go with based on a general understanding that all are rated well.
I did not intend to run an RFP process for this.
Okay.
I would prefer to just meet with the banks, talk to them about their services,
Okay.
and make our choice that way.
To Trustee Gates' point, I think one of those evaluation criteria should be multi-factor authentication and enhanced cybersecurity protocols, financial, obviously, internal controls and stuff.
How did you get to this group? How did you arrive at the
The-
6 that you're proposing?
Oh, well, I used the Robinson Capital website
Okay.
to review banks that are based in Michigan through PA20. We can only invest, or we can only put our funds in a bank that's physically in the state of Michigan. So I used their website to look up banks that were here physically and then check their rating.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I fully support this. I'm honestly, we need to be conscious of their security. Most of them should have similar security and they'd be liable for their own losses from a cybersecurity event compared to the obligations on us as an internal policy. So I think one of the things that I would look to, as you're going through the due diligence process, is their outline plan for responsiveness. So less concerned around like, do you require MFA? It would be more of a, we want to require MFA as an internal policy. How do you support that? And then in the event of a cyber attack, what is your process for responsiveness?
For escalation criteria?
Yep.
Disaster recovery protocols. Is the HR committee gonna be interviewing the treasurer candidates?
Yes.
I thought you were gonna ask about the bank. I'm like, please no.
Will Abby's reach extend to financial institutions?
Unless you want to. I would not take that away from you, Dan.
More questions?
Can we do anything to support on this, aside from this discussion, Rachel? Any other?
There's nothing else to do.
Do you need a motion?
We do.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, there's one right there, if you just want to read the bottom.
Yeah, I'll move to authorize the village administrator and treasurer to deposit municipal funds into one of these, or into these approved institutions and execute all necessary agreements, signature cards, and related documents to effectuate such deposits.
Second.
Motion by Solaka, second by King. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel. All right, next item is, this is just a discussion to kind of get the dialogue going on whether we're going to consider a police millage in the, at the time of the August 26 primary. How do you want to tackle this? We want to just start with generally questions. What Rachel's included is two items. One is Chief Lawson's kind of forecasted budget, which goes out almost 8 years. And then a chart which describes our current property tax rate situation as well as a comparison to some of our surrounding communities. Right now, all of the police expenses for the Village of Franklin come from two places. One is a small police millage of 0.3802 mils, and I don't know if that's what it's currently, or, let's see. Okay, so 0.3802 is what the millage itself is, which expires in 2030. Currently, with the Headley rollback, it's at 0.3743. So between those three, almost 4/10 of a mil, and the entire operating budget comes from the general fund, which in total for the Village of Franklin is only 3.5 mils. And based upon we don't have this here, we've had charts before, but the percentage of the police expenses in the general operating fund is over 70%, I'm pretty sure. It's not all the way to 80. 60 to 70? Yeah. So what we have to consider is creating the police millage as its own standalone millage and not have it coming out of the general operating fund, to allow the general operating fund to be used for other purposes and then not have to draw as much out of the general operating fund in order to cover all of our expenses, and then have the police's funding come from one dedicated spot. And if there are instances where the millage in a particular year, due to extraneous expenses, doesn't cover it, the general fund is always there available to help cover. But this would get us, get the two separated, similar to some of these other communities. So that's really the discussion.
We also
One
need
is,
to consider that the pension is underfunded. So with the millage, that will open up space in the general fund for us to make additional payments.
As needed, so that the general fund can become more of a as-needed fund, which would not necessarily require us on an annual basis to max it out, because we wouldn't be having, it's maxed out every year now because the police dominates it and doesn't leave very much left over for the rest. We would need, obviously, financial experts to take Chief's budget and what these expenses are as we get 5 and 6 years out into the future, and how we would set up a police millage. Do we need to set it up so that has enough available for the end of its projected life period? In which case, again, until we reach those numbers, you wouldn't have to draw on it all. Or do we shoot more for where we're at around now, and if these costs significantly increase, we'd have to look to other sources. There's also this existing millage, which expires in 2030. Would we keep that in place along with a new millage, or would we create a new millage that would essentially consolidate the two into one? You can basically buy out one with a new one and then take that term out. Right now, our millage goes to 2030. We're already in 2026. We probably should be looking at expenses farther out than 3 and 4 years from now. For sure, Chief has gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, almost 8 years out. So that's generally what the discussion that has to take place over the course of this month and next month's meetings, based on an attempt to have this on a ballot for the residents to consider. In August, we would have to have approved ballot language by our May meeting, right? Is that what Dan told us? So,
Dan who?
Dan Kelly.
Oh, okay.
We first ran this by him at legal committee and asked him general questions about timing for trying to have this in an August election as opposed to November.
So you're looking for some decisions tonight?
No decisions at all.
Oh, okay.
This is just discussion. So this is March. So this is to just get it out there into everybody's mind.
Okay.
Start having Rachel work with our financial analysts to kind of put together what the budget needs are in relation to our current taxable values, some prognostication into where our taxable values will increase during this time period, and give us maybe not just one, but a couple different scenarios of how many mills they would recommend would be needed to put together a fully contained police millage.
Can I ask you a question about overall structure? Because I'm looking at some of this and I think, have we ever explored other options for public safety? Meaning, like, even at Bingham Farms shouldering 35% of this, what this says to me is, can we afford this? I mean, this is a substantial cost for us as a village. Has there ever been any exploration of a shared model with another municipality as another option to decrease some of our costs? I mean, I'm looking at 15% increases of health insurance over the next however many fiscal years.
right?
And that is 15%. It'll take us from 175K to over 500,000. Retirement contributions, as of this time, 2033, 34, take us from 600K to 1.4. Can we afford to have this? I mean, this is,
So I guess what I'm hearing is, and again, as you're looking through these numbers, what you can see, I guess just to distill it down quickly, which may be obvious for everybody, is at the bottom, we see this year is a 2% increase, next year's a 10% increase, then 8, 6, 7, 8, 8, 8. But when you look at it, most expenses are only increasing 2 to 3%, but the retirement, the group health, and retirement health care, group health insurance, and retirement contributions are all increasing at what Trustee Gates was talking about of 15, 15, and 12. But because there's such large line items, it influences the overall bottom line at the bottom of 10 to 8% fluctuations.
yeah, I
So-
mean, it is your first and second largest cost overall between health insurance, salaries, and retirement contributions.
I guess my question would be is what would so if we put in a millage to cover the cost, what would that millage be to be able to keep up with this increase? Like, what are we looking at?
I think Trustee Gates' question needs to come first. Can we afford it?
Well, I don't think you can make that assessment. I mean, the answer is if you tax the people, you can.
What's the alternative? Not having police? I'm not following.
No.
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 There's a bunch of things, that- like, my
Like
question
right now,
is,
today, we're on a shared department between municipalities model.
Right?
Could we move to a contracted services model where we contract with another municipality? So we reduce our overhead by not carrying labor costs and then contract those services, because that's a steep cost over the next, not just a steep cost of your first and second largest buckets of expenditures. So if we don't carry that burden, we reduce our risk.
You do, you'll possibly reduce your level of service too. I doubt that another community would provide the house checks and things like that, that our local police force does.
Sure.
But you would have to make the presumption that all of the money that we would then be taking to pay another agency to provide service to us, that they would take that and use it to increase their needs to serve us.
Sure, but that would be a part of a contract process of, what are expected response times? What are the expected service categories? What is it that we're paying for?
Okay,
I mean,
and
that all
then
becomes a part of a
once you've
SOW.
abandoned what we have and are operating entirely based on a contract with a third party, contracts expire. What happens when the contract has to get re-upped? And
I mean, the
We-
same
we
thing
don't
that
have-
happens today. I mean, we're on a 3-year cycle and those
yeah,
costs
but we
have
wouldn't have
risen.
any leverage at that point. Right now, if we were to sit down with someone and ask them if they would consider contracting with us, they would know that we already have a police department. So the fallback would just keep status quo. So I would expect the inducement to be more favorable for us. But what happens 5 years down the line when the contract's up and we don't have a police force to fall back on, and the people we've contracted with say, well, this isn't going so well, or, wow, we've really looked at it after these 5 years, and that deal that we offered you, we think it's gonna be double now, and then we're in the same situation with having to come up with money to pay for police, but we're not even having our own police department.
Could we put a ceiling on increases, pacing with
If you
either
can
the rate of
find it. I mean,
inflation or?
remember, it isn't like there's a lot of places to go to, and it would have to be someone, I would assume, bordering us, unless we wanted to make a deal with the county, which is very challenging, and in the places I've seen it, not an ideal situation. So, our surrounding communities, our Bingham, which is our sister community and we're partners with, to go further beyond them is Beverly Hills, which you can't do because they're a police and fire agency all in one. It would have to be Farmington Hills, West Bloomfield, or Bloomfield, I would assume. And I have no idea what those agencies would be in a position to deal with an increase of picking
I'm
up.
just saying we don't know.
No, we
And,
don't know.
and at this rate of increase, can we afford this? And is it a forever solution? If we stabilize our finances and find ourselves in a much more favorable position in 7 years, do we put that contract in effect for 7 years and then reassess in 5 or 6 years from now to say, are we in a position to reestablish a police department here?
My response to that is no, because of how we're financially structured. We're solely dependent, essentially. A high majority of our revenues are from property taxes, right? So we're not gonna see some massive influx in property taxes unless we're raising the taxes, right? If we have status quo as far as millages go now, we will always be where we're currently at.
Well, and we could probably take an analysis of our tax bills and see what percentage of the community is, let's say, has been uncapped within the last 5 to 7, let's even call it the last 7 to 10 years. Because I'm sure based upon our population, that we still have at least 25 to 30% of the population that have lived here for 20 and 30 years, where their difference between their taxable value and their assessed value is great. So maybe in the course of the next couple of years, we might see a greater than normal increase, but nothing that we can bank on. Unfortunately, a lot of our surrounding communities have commercial tax value income, which we just don't possess. So are always gonna be hamstrung by the fact that we're only gonna go increase as much as our residential property values increase.
I've got a question for Abby. Thinking about contracting for services, how would you imagine, or would you, that contracting for police services would save us money?
Theoretically, that we wouldn't bear the burden of paying for things like health benefits that would typically sit with their home agency. We wouldn't pay for retirement contributions. I mean, I'm assuming there's some contract negotiations involved in shifting over pensions. But salary increase costs and renegotiation of police contracts wouldn't sit with us.
But those costs would still have to be incurred by somebody.
Sure, but they'd be shared across a larger amount of residents.
Presumably at a lower rate, are you thinking?
Potentially.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that this is the best option. It's just, you know, when faced with shortfalls, for instance, in my house, the first question that happens is, what can we cut? What services don't we need as a family? What are nice to haves? So is it the home checks go away because it eats up what percentage of police time today? Is it other services are reduced because it reduces things like overtime? Or do we consider another model? Or is
Or we
there?
just pay more in taxes, a little more in taxes, and then we don't have the problem. I mean, this chart shows us that we're certainly not maxing out above our comparable communities.
They're significantly below.
So I think I
every-
just have a question. I'm sorry. This chart, I think it would be more helpful if it was similar to the way Rachel did for the, who did this? Sorry.
I don't know who did.
Okay, the way Rachel did evaluation criteria versus cost for the selection of the village council, I think is important, because if I say I'm getting a credit card with a $300 annual fee and one has an $800 annual fee, and I haven't compared services benefits, like this to me doesn't, like Beverly Hills has many more city services than we do. So like this just tells me the cost, but I'm interested in what are the residents getting back. I can't compare apples to apples when this is apples, oranges, grapes, mangoes.
Well, they're
bananas.
getting more back because they have more money to spend.
Not necessarily. I want to know, like, Beverly Hills has a lot more that we don't offer our residents. Clarkson has a lot more, like Orion, Ortonville. Like, those are things that when we go to the residents and say, we're going to raise your taxes, and they're gonna say, we don't even have a pavilion with a barbecue. What am I gonna say?
Right, well, again, Beverly Hills has
But we don't know, because
a multitude of businesses that are paying taxes on a non-PRE 52 mills. Clarkston's got all kinds of businesses paying taxes on non-PRE 51 mills.
Comparable,
We have,
yet you want us to compare them. So that's why I'm saying this is a inflated or collapsed scope, because we can't compare what we have to other villages when they have different things than we do.
And all I'm saying is, we're in a situation where we've got to consider trade-offs. There is no bad idea here. That's all I'm saying. I'm not even saying this is the best course of action. I'm saying it's worth looking into if it gives us some breathing room. Because the situation we talked about in the last council meeting was that it's a dire situation. And so if, given that position, and given all of the priorities we talked about, we're fighting over crumbs to do any of those things that we talked about last time. Because of this part of it. I mean, we're spending so much money on this part of it. Is this worth looking into as
but
well?
isn't everyone else spending that too? It's not like this is a unique situation to us. It's a cost that's
It's-
part of,
Yes and no, right? Like, so even within these comparables, we're not did we factor in on our mills? I guess this would be to Trustee Salaka's point, to a degree, that we also pay Southfield Township for services, right? And so those mills aren't really contemplated in here about what somebody's actual tax bill would look like for kind of localized services. So when considering general operating, I think that's what Trustee Salaka is saying, is like, the way that it's split out is difficult to actually assess. I guess my concern here is twofold. The first one is, well, sorry, and then, sorry, President Goldberg, specifically to the point that you were raising, it's not in the sense of, well, everybody's paying this amount, because again, it comes down to overall population size compared to police force. And so I think a natural trade-off to the question of what happens if we change things is exactly what Rachel had brought up, which is probably a decrease in service, right? Like if we entered into an agreement with another community, I'm guessing they're less likely to try and stick it to us in the contract and more likely to just not patrol the areas frequently. And so I would actually, I think that's a difficulty in measurement too. Coming back to the root cause of the question that's being asked is like, do we want to move our entire police budget into a millage? That's the first question. And then that naturally increases the taxes, because everything that we're paying for the police department is now ×2, because we're not decreasing the overall tax revenues. Is that what we want to do? I know we don't have to draw the entire amount down, but I'm going to make the assumption that it will be. The next, the part two of this is, but even if we lift out the police millage entirely and we put a ×2 next to it, we are still looking at an increase year over year of between 10 and 8%. So we lift those it's not just ×2, because we have to contemplate the increase in the overall cost for the police budget. So we're looking at potentially ×2.5, right? Because if we look at the projections for 2033, we're looking at about 40%, a 40% increase from what we're currently paying on this expense. So that's like what I genuinely struggle with. Do I want to increase resident taxes by that much? And from when I first got on council, said I thought it was a great idea to move the budget out, the police budget out of the general budget, so that we can say, this is the police budget. The people, because we often, as we sit up here, people are wondering, well, you're frivolously spending funds. And it's like, we're not. We have no funds, right? Because so much of it is going to the police budget, and we collectively want the police. Now you see how much it actually costs from a dollar cents perspective, because that's something that people don't appreciate. However, when I had that position, I was under the assumption that we would be reducing our general fund taxes, or what we're drawing from, not drawing, but what we would actually collect and authorize from a general fund perspective. Because like I said, I'm going to take the position that if we allow ourselves to be able to draw down the full amount, maybe not in the first year, maybe not in the second year, but we will quickly chip away at that amount for things that I don't know that residents necessarily want, because we're not going to have an avenue to say this is a service that the people want compared to they don't want, because we just said you're voting to move the police millage out of the general fund. And that's how it's going to be messaged to the people. And so that's what I have concern about.
I may be asking the question, I think you might be, Rick. I'd like to have a discussion about the advantages and disadvantages of having a separate police or a public safety millage, and versus a scenario where we would simply leave the police in the general fund. What are the pros and cons of that decision? It seems like it's a starting point for everything else. Was that close to what you were going to ask?
Who talking to?
One of them, yeah.
talking about something else.
Oh, okay.
Are we opening public comment?
Not yet. But could we have a short discussion about that? I'm
Who you talking to right now?
I'm talking to whoever wants to listen, because this is a discussion. I'd like either now, because we're moving ahead on the assumption that we're going to create a separate police millage. Have we made that decision, and on what basis should we consider that?
What's the other basis? We can't create more money in the general fund, and clearly the general fund isn't enough to.
Well, no, it's
cover
maxed
the-
out. So at one point, we were talking about going to the citizens and asking for a charter change, authorizing us to levy greater than the
So then that would be giving us more discretionary use of the funds, which is what David is implying, that we don't have the ability to control ourselves, that somehow we're gonna become spendthrifts and waste villagers' money on non-essential items when we live in a village that doesn't even have essential items and don't have the money to pay for, and has historically not taken all of the available tax dollars that was available per the millages, which is part of the problem that we don't have a surplus now, is because we have been so conservative and not maxing out expenses for literally decades, that we're in a position that we have to do something more drastic because we didn't allow the slow buildup.
I think that's a mischaracterization of the comments. I think we've underinvested in infrastructure and long-term planning and been short-sighted and given money towards things that we shouldn't have because there was no long-term financial planning. So we've spent money. We've spent so much money, we have no money in reserves. What we've spent it on wasn't prioritized, it wasn't planned, and it was off the hip.
And I disagree with that.
I don't think I agree with
Yeah,
that.
I'm not gonna agree with that. I mean,
We give raises for no reason, based on nothing.
Oh, my God.
We hire,
Are you
what do you
seriously
mean?
gonna go
We've had
there?
salary
We've
settings.
retroactively given a raise
That was
to
a
someone
one
who has-
situation for
in-
2 employees in
No,
1
you did
calendar
it
year.
With 2 administrators ago, you retroactively gave a raise to someone who failed in general duties.
But that
Okay,
did not create
so
the situation.
you're right,
It's
and
that
that's why
practice,
that's
and
why
it's-
we're a
and
couple.
it's
Well,
now been run.
It's
Let's-
that
hang on.
practice
Let's pull back real quick.
of saying, we will do it because someone's asked for it and not based in policy, planning,
Those are
or
but
forecasting.
those are individual those are individual things that I completely agree with. I was against it. I was one of the people who was vocal about the retroactive application and authorization of future not only for the approval of the amount, but then to say, yeah, now that's your new salary moving forward. Regardless, pull that back to the point that I think is more material is, and I don't want to go down this path, but we were producing budgets that were exceeding the amounts we were taking in for years
Decades.
and not having a conversation about that. That is the root problem, not the one or two things off. Fundamentally, we as a community got comfortable with passing budgets that exceeded the amount of revenues without increasing the taxes. I acknowledge we need to increase the taxes in order to keep up with our expenses, or we need to make drastic cuts, or both. But I just want to move the conversation back to like, what is the core and fundamental issue of how we got here?
Our expenses have exceeded our revenue for decades and violated the charter, and the council has voted in favor of it. The majority of council, because it was not unanimous last time.
And I think more than anything, we have to recognize we have to make some hard decisions somewhere. I don't want to do it. It's not fun. Ask any leader. It's terrible to have to do, but we're going to have to make some hard decisions somewhere.
Not really.
Because something has to give.
What?
I don't understand why I don't understand I can understand not
I don't understand
appreciating
how
or not agreeing,
this
but
discussion for the better course of a year is under the people that I sit on council with are under the impression that we are going to be able to fix our problem by controlling expenses and not by increasing revenues.
I'm not saying that that's not on the table. I'm saying, is it possible we have to do both? I kind of am, because we are out $1 million.
But that has nothing to do with the budget situation, okay? The budget situation has been going on for years because, yes, our expenses exceed our revenues. To the extent you believe there's been extenuating, frivolous spending over the last couple of years, Angelina, find it and tell us how much you really believe that is, because it's not going to be enough to fix the couple million or so dollar increase that we need to have for our police department over the course of the next.
There is nothing
6-7
to
years.
say there hasn't been frivolous spending when no one is reviewing and accepting contracted services. When you have a $45,000 unpaid balance for your landscaping and we have to pay that, that means no one's been looking at what services have been completed, when they've been completed, what has been completed, the time it was completed in. So the lack of contractor oversight, just in procurement and acquisition, that Rachel has focused on improving, is a huge, huge loss of money. Because we don't know what's been happening. We have no control over the financial operations of the village. So you show me that we haven't been spending frivolously.
Okay.
Can we?
All I'm asking is for an exploration of options. I'm not making any decisions or determinations. Could we explore, is it an option, and would it give us breathing room? That's all I'm asking for. Could we explore a comparable list of services? Could we explore a contract that would allow for us to consider that is a reasonable option? I don't know. I mean, that is what any organization would do when faced with either increases of spending or having to cut expenses somewhere, is exploring how we determine services that we have, what we need, and what we want to have. And that's how any organization runs.
So would your request be to Rachel and the chief to provide us a budget, maybe more than one budget pro forma for this period that represents a police, an operating budget at some level that maybe you would request, and the level that he's at, and what that would mean in terms of FTEs and levels of service.
I would want a current state cost analysis.
I mean, I think
Today?
those are requests that this
Sure.
discussion should result in.
Right. I mean, I would love to know benchmarking across comparable municipalities, what services other municipalities get, what's the cost per household, and the cost per resident. I would want to know, like transition considerations. Obviously, there'd have to be some transitions of things like pension There'd have to be some legal and operational impacts considered. I am not saying that this is the option. I'm saying we would be irresponsible not to consider it.
My contribution to that would be that with regards to the police budget, which is what seems to be on the table now, it is driving most of our revenue and most of our expenses. One is that I have 14 years on the council. It's not forever, but it's long enough to have heard 3 chiefs talk about pros and cons of numbers of officers on the streets, the costs of part-time versus full-time, leasing versus buying automobiles. And in every case, and particularly since our current chief started work, a budget that has very little slack in it, because the expenses at the end of the year have been very close to the projected expenses, and we review those. So I would argue with us not having oversight. We have monthly conversations with the chiefs. Ultimately, you do need to trust that person to run a good department. And right now, our current chief has put a pause on hiring that last officer that was hired or approved by this council. What we're probably talking about is migrating to a fully part-time police force where we don't have to incur pension and benefits costs. And then you have to ask the question, is that good practice? I mean, these are hypotheticals, but where I think you're headed is, do we trust that this department's been run properly? If so, this is what the cost is.
I think it's unfair to make it personal.
I'm not making it
You
personal.
did. You said we have to trust the person, and I've heard from 3 police chiefs. What Abby is saying
That's
is,
not personal, that's just
yes,
what
it is. Of course we trust chief. She's asking for a business impact analysis and a cost benefit analysis, so she can make a data-driven decision. That is what we want, a data-driven decision, a business impact analysis, a cost benefit analysis. We are up here and we have to sell to our constituents a tax increase. Give us the justification to do so. Not because I trust him and 14 years of police chiefs who have been giving me monthly reports. Data-driven analysis, data-driven decision-making based on risk. It's not
And it may be that we
personal.
net out that it is the best option. I'm
Help
simply
us sell it.
saying we have to consider all options. It would be irresponsible for us sitting up here not to consider all options. That's all I'm saying. I have no inclination either way.
Yeah.
I think Chief does a wonderful job. I think he is wonderfully communicative. I think he's a wonderful partner, a wonderful collaborator. But when we're considering the amount of money we spend on any bucket of expenditures in the village, we fine tooth comb it. That's what you do as responsible fiscal stewards. You gotta consider trade-offs. That's all I'm saying.
I think Dan
I
has
hear what
something
you're
to say.
saying.
Thank you. I'm not buying or selling anything. I just want to comment about the process that the Finance Committee had hoped to go through. What you're talking about are very important matters from a budget perspective. And that's a discussion that this council will have to have over the next few months when they look at the budget. What the intent of the discussion now was overall millage strategy. And you're responsible as a council every year to set that millage rate. So you do not, the question is, you can set your millage rate within the boundary. You don't have to go to the full millage rate. In fact, you haven't. In some areas, you do not charge the fully approved millage. You go less. And President Goldberg alluded to that earlier, that you've been authorized to say to spend 3.5, to assess 3.5, and you went to 3.1, or whatever the number may be. So your comments are very appropriate as fiscal agencies to look at when the budget comes before you, you have a responsibility to review it in detail, to challenge it, to look at the aspects of what it will do. As Trustee Sally said, for many years, you've underfunded your expenses. And that's causing part of the problem you're having. The question that we want to have you to think about is, there is a need for an increased millage. The only aspect you have now, the cap you have, is that the charter puts a cap on the general. The question may be, and Council Trustee Hanson raised it, do we want to go for, do you want, as council, to go for a charter amendment to increase, put a high millage opportunity there, to allow council then to increase within that cap an additional millage revenue, and whether that be done on a split basis of just total funding for police and its general, and a general funding. I think as Trustee Sally said, you do not expect to just put a police millage out there and not adjust general.
Yeah.
Okay, and you'll have to determine how much of that you want to adjust. If you go up, you raise one here, one full millage, do you take this one down 0.75?
And when do we do that?
That's your decision to make once you decide and determine what you can, whether the millage goes through when you set your budget.
Do it every year when we file our L 425 or.
Every year you have to go through and determine your millage rates within your approvals. So the question, it becomes, as it was asked, do you want to go do it as a split and say we want to go to the public for a fully mandated police, say, public safety millage? Or do you want to go and say, as you have in the past, and say we have a general millage of X, of which a certain portion of that is allocated to the police? And every year, you're looking at the police budget to determine the allocation. You don't blindly pass it over, just same way you don't blindly pass a budget. And those are the options you're going to, so the budget questions are really very real. But we want to talk now about more strategy on an overall basis. And whether you go, if you go for a 10-year millage, you want to go and set a cap up there that'll hopefully potentially cover that. But again, that estimate you have before you, which is mind-blowing, and 40%, it's you can't go there and say we want to increase 140% today. You also have to put into account, as someone else mentioned, your property value should increase over time. So there will be additional revenue from the property taxes that will also offset that increase. You do have the question, if it's a 10% here, but cost of living, you capture property at 3 or 4% based on cost of living, assuming, less people go on cap and go through that process. So you got that issue to think about on a projection basis.
And the charter doesn't, Birmingham Public School taxes can go up. Southfield Township taxes can go up. Oakland County taxes can go up.
Yes.
These are separate things that we don't have control over.
That's correct. In fact, I believe there is an Oakland County Intermediate School District millage going on the ballot.
There is, to pay for the teacher salaries, right?
It could be. Now, as far as you talked also about contracting out, you've got, your health care, your pension, your salaries, those aren't going to go away if you contract out. You're in a very competitive environment. These police officers are very fungible, can go anywhere they want. They want to go for the right environment, and the compensation's got to be competitive. And you find that you're seeing that every time you go to hire someone. You also, in the meantime, also have in your financial statements a $5 to $6 million pension obligation right now for prior service that you have to fund over time. Oh, yeah, it's there.
Is this retirement contribution pension?
Part of that is for current service. Part of it is you also are funding prior expenses. Typical with most governments and school districts and a lot of other companies will give you the pension benefit. We're not going to pay for it now. Let the next council pay for it when I'm off the board. Yeah. Let the next school board member worry about that, not me. You've got a $6 million problem right now. That's out there. Contracting services won't get rid of that one. That's on you guys.
No, it's on the next council.
Well, it's there, but that's the other thing you have to think about too when you go through this. So I think what President Goldberg wants us to think about is strategy-wise on the millage. I think you've all agreed you need to go for a millage.
Well, what if we, just taking your example, for instance, we've got a $6 million problem, and if we sign a 5-year contract capped at price increases or a flat fee over the length of 5 years, and we don't see increases like this because we negotiate that contract, and then spend down that $6 million, that $6 million problem that we have, is that an option?
So, yeah, my response one, thank you. But two, I think my response to that would be what Rick is suggesting is logistically, whether it is this police force or a contracted police force, we have to solve the revenues behind it. So you can talk the strategy of who those revenues go to. Now is more of a how do we fund the present. my only adjustment to that is I do think your considerations play into the strategy conversation because it would go into how long we'd go out to a millage for.
And that's what you gotta think about. And whether you should go and, what will the voters be more amenable to? If you wanna go and say, look, we're going to wipe out the existing millage now, in 3 years ahead of time, and replace it with a longer-term, long-range planning, gives you a chance to plan. But again, you'll put a cap up there, request a cap, a high limit, and you have to show the vision and the tough decisions to say, we're not gonna spend it all. We're not gonna charge you that. We just wanna have the ability in the future for a council to say, it's time for us to raise more revenue.
Because right now, we're effectively capped at what the charter says on the general fund,
And
right?
why should they believe us?
That's what they're gonna vote. That's
They're gonna vote
the
it.
point of the election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
I
any
mean, we
event,
haven't shown them that we
The
can
point,
That's
that
council.
be fiscal custodians of their money.
That is an opinion to
It's
each
not an
person that goes to,
opinion.
it is
It's
to
an
each person
opinion.
that goes to the poll. That's the point of the poll.
that's the decision, that's why you gotta go, and that's why also why President Goldberg, I think, suggested that you go in August in case you have to go back in November.
Yeah.
Do we,
Are you allowed to go back twice in 3 months on the same issue?
They do, people do it.
In the exact same way?
Well,
It may not, if
direct
it
that
doesn't go the
question to
first
the
time.
attorney.
You just keep on putting it on the ballot until they vote yes?
You can put it on the ballot again, yes.
In the exact same way, do you have to tweak the language?
I can't answer that on the
Well,
phone.
Okay.
I don't know if the language is the issue as much as the concepts behind it. I mean, if, obviously, if you do it once, fool me once, do it twice, shame on me. If it didn't pass the first time,
Theoretically,
I gotta
the
change.
amount would potentially change if it
You can change the amount, or you can change.
failed, and it's the
To me,
first
I
go
think-
around.
People will pay if they know what they're getting.
Okay, but you're implying that there's all these people out there that don't know what they're getting, see, that's,
No.
I don't see.
I'm
I
not
don't
saying
see
with
them
the
lining up
police.
here telling us, what do you guys do with all your money?
but I think, just,
This is the first time we've discussed this in an open meeting.
What do you mean? You're implying that for years now, we've just been wasting money, nobody comes up here and complains about all the wasted money we're spending.
Because you haven't
Why did you
raised-
buy this, why did you do this,
To
why
your
did you do
own
that,
point,
why
you
did you do
haven't
this?
raised taxes.
But you're-
So who's gonna
we're
come here when you
notwithstanding
haven't
the
raised taxes?
You're saying that for years, we've been wasting money. And I'm just saying to you, if we've been wasting money, nobody's been up here complaining.
Because it
Well,
hasn't
you
hit
have 5
the-
new people
No,
on
no, no.
council, so
Hang on.
I guess that's
Okay,
something.
this is unproductive, honestly, on both parts.
It's fine. Discussion's over. Let's move
The
on.
discussion is not
You can't
over.
move on
unilaterally
to the
close
next item.
discussion. You
Yeah.
have to have a motion and a second and a vote.
What are we,
What? No,
Can I
I'm
just
the
say-
chairman of this meeting. I can stop the discussion anytime I want.
Point of order.
We're not voting on anything right now.
You can't, we have a, is the chair allowed to close discussion?
the
If
chair
it-
would be able to table the discussion if you chose. It's a discussion, there is no motion on the table.
I'll move to keep discussion open.
second,
Motion is second. All in favor to keep the discussion open, say aye.
Aye.
No. Okay, motion carries. Keep your discussion going.
can I just ask, I just want one clarification, I didn't have a chance to speak yet. Rachel, do you have a good understanding? I mean, to me, there's a lot to look into on processes and how we're gonna implement this. But and to trustee Gates's point, we have hard decisions ahead of us. From when I look at this number, and I look at what we currently bring in, I don't really see a world where we can't raise the mills. Is that accurate,
What do
Rachel?
you mean we can't raise the bill?
We're gonna need to get
We need more revenue.
take a millage.
Like,
You
or
will, you
we-
need a millage.
Yes.
If you're going to keep your police
And
force.
I think the discussion so far is, we need a millage, but we also want to understand and be able to communicate effectively what we're getting if we do this, because this is substantial to what people are used to. So when they get their bill in the middle of the summer, they're gonna be like, whoa, this is not what I have done for the past 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, so it's like-
And we need to be able to effectively communicate that and what they get. Do you like your police chief? Do you like to have them do your home checks? Do you like all these things? Do you like them? And I mean, that's what we're going to ask the voters effectively. But I want to make sure when we put that in a resolution, effectively, this is why. And we are clear, because I look at these retirement contributions, I'm like, holy cow, this will not be sustainable. But I want to make sure that the voters understand that. And that seems to be the point of order. And I think also when we're asking for that, they expect us to be good stewards. So we need to also show that, to Rick's point, that we're not just going to keep the general fund at 3.5 mils because that was paying for the police department, but we also need to effectively communicate what that will be paid for and continue to pay for. And I think that's fairly reasonable. Yes?
Yeah, that's all we're asking. What are we selling?
I'm sorry, were you going to say something? I'm
No,
done.
I want to
Okay.
ask Rachel a question. I wanted to
Okay,
wait till
sorry.
you're done.
I'm done. Thank you.
So Rachel, what would help me is, because I think where we're headed here, based on the discussion that I've heard, is this is not happy making, but it's real. We're also going to have a similar spreadsheet for operating other expenses required to operate the village. That right now is around, $5,700,000 or so a year. So, is there a way to create a similar worksheet so that we can actually see what the total operating costs are to run the village? And then so we can get to the question of how much, how do we divide up, or how much of that money should go into a police millage, and how much of it should remain in the general fund. I would like to understand the scenarios of, the worst case being leave the current millage as it is and then add on a police millage. What does that look like in terms of revenues? What if, another scenario, what if we moved X amount of dollars into a police millage and then drop down the village operating, but millage income revenue, so we can still get to this, we can still make sure that we're in a good space, a good financial space at the end of 8 years. I'm looking for scenarios so that we can understand what the real picture is here, because all of us do have to face off with voters, and I'm nervous about being able to make that decision with good data in next meeting, basically April, because we need it by May. That's scary, and educate voters. There's a lot to do. But it sounds like, from a strategic perspective, the council is leaning toward, and I'm kind of checking this out, a reduced village operating millage and shunting more of those funds over to the police or the public safety millage.
We're having the option.
So
Right.
I think, that's
Option
why,
to do it.
that's why I voted in favor of continuing the conversation, because I want to hyper-focus on what does next meeting look like, right? And what are we bringing back to the table? And what I'm hearing from you, Pam, and maybe it's a little bit different, but strongly how I feel is I'm hearing kind of two options, which is we wholly lift out the police budget and we base a millage of the entire expenditure of the police budget being outside of our general fund. And then I would like the an alternative proposal, which would be if we split the cost between general fund and an increase in the millage, what would that look like and what would that amount be?
So if we did that, and this might be a stupid question, but if we did that, if we split the cost, would that give us more room for dollars to operate the village so that we
Yes.
have money to spend on some of these priorities and initiatives we talked
That would
about?
give us less.
No, because it wouldn't be a one-to-one. I'm not asking for a one-to-one. I'm asking for evaluate our total budget, understand what increases we need to actually operate, and then we pass a police millage to allocate that amount out of our general fund to free up that general fund to pay for the expenses that we need to, rather than just wholesale saying entire police budget, pick up, move out.
Like, we could pass a charter change to raise
We
the
don't-
amount that we can tax in the general fund and then pay for
the police budget along with what our future priorities are in the operating.
Those
Like-
are two different things.
Yeah, those are
But
two separate things, but,
You could do either.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
to Rick's point, there's multiple ways to get to the same end goal.
And it is.
It matters what
possible to
strategy we
have-
want to take.
So you're suggesting increasing the general fund instead of having a police millage?
No,
No,
what, well, kind of, right? So, I guess.
General fund is what's the discretionary spending. You'd be putting more money into our hands to be discretionary about. That's why taking it all out and putting it to the police millage means we know that the police department money will be paid and covered every year. And we don't have to use as much of our general fund. You guys are under, well, some of the discussions that we're having is this idea that just because available funds become available, that we're gonna draw upon them for no reason. And I'm saying we've
No.
never.
I think you were
historically
right
done that.
until you
No, I
said for no reason.
I think the point is like, there's a lack of governance and control over how dollars are being spent. Could we, with any specificity, understand how dollars were spent in past fiscal years? Do we have controls around those things? I think that's all
But
that's been said.
And I know that that question has come up several times tonight. It's a budget question, and you're talking about controls over spend. I would appreciate knowing what specifically is causing the heartburn about the spend.
Sorry.
Well, let me, if I could just finish.
There was
Oh,
a
it's a
bug
bug.
flying in our faces.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, sorry. Because then we can do something about it. But broad statements about, well, there's no stewardship or there's no oversight, that is not true. There may be different views of our oversight in areas we can improve. I agree with that. But let's carve that out as a separate discussion and have it as we build the budget for next year, for the village operating expenses. Then, and use those priorities that we set as part of the guardrails for doing that. We need to figure out, and I'm trying to figure out how to create a formula for what we're gonna actually ask villagers for. And what the impact is on households. Very little of our tax bill actually goes to pay for the village. Could we inform ourselves of that better than we seem to be? And what would the impact of Path A on millage be on each household? Path B, Path C, so we can actually look at real numbers.
So are you
Or-
saying, Pam, that we would understand, like each villager will be able to say, in my tax bill that I'm getting at my household, this percentage goes to operate the village, this percentage goes to operate the police department, this percentage goes to X, Y, and Z, so that everyone would understand when they come here and say, we want X, Y, and Z, we say, all right,
Yes.
the math doesn't math, because this percentage of what you're spending in taxes goes here.
People who have mortgages they're paid through the bank typically. I don't know how many people look critically at that summer tax bill. I think not that many. But we should be talking about what the actual dollar amount is from our tax bills goes to pay for operating this budget. We've acknowledged tonight, there's township, there's schools, there's state, there's this and that. Let's take a look at that.
That's what this is. That's,
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like we don't have this data.
well,
General fund expenses, 3-year trends, this was from 23 to 26.
I saw that, it could be updated.
Right. And between administration and police, everything's like
Yeah,
this tall.
and in real
And
numbers.
police is this tall.
The typical definition you get is, well, the definition of a millage, a mill. It's this much per thousand. Well, how much is my house worth? Who, do I agree? How does that formula translate into what is the check I have to write to run the village? So if we're appealing to value, what do you get for your money? I would like to be able to say to somebody, well, your bill to run the village was $1,200 last year. And for that $1,200, you got this. In very simple, real terms.
That's what we've been saying. You want more data so you can make a decision.
So we-
That's what we've all been saying.
I'm very
So we
comfortable with
agree.
data.
Yeah. So we, I think the
We're
net of
all
it
on
is
the
we
same
all agree.
page.
We all agree.
Well, I'd
That's
like
right.
to have the data before we start looking at, should we contract out for a police force?
Totally.
Because that is not and I don't want to ask the village staff to do a
I'm right
scenario analysis of outsourcing police, because that's a big deal, and it's a very loaded strategic question that I don't want to go there right now, unless we're really serious for this coming year, which I think we aren't.
I think in the short term, do we have solutions if this doesn't pass? So that way we can do greater due diligence,
Absolutely.
data
We
analysis.
should have a plan B.
Yeah.
And one of those plan Bs should be have another ballot question, just in case. But we
At the
should
same
be,
time?
no, the next possible
Oh, okay.
election, maybe a little different question, just to make sure we're covered.
So
Does what I'm saying make sense?
all of that, Pam, I totally agree with you. So if we're considering a plan B, and if the millage doesn't pass, what is the harm in considering contracting out the services if it doesn't? That's all I'm asking.
I don't think Pam has, I really don't mean to debate what I'm hearing, because I feel the same way. It's just in the
It's
sense that I
interesting
feel the
having to
same way.
Speculate about what Pam thinks.
No, I know,
You
that's why I apologized ahead of time, right? But what I'm hearing is, we can have that conversation if we have to cross that bridge, but let's focus on the number one thing right now, which is, we do have an immediate need to increase our mills and increase our taxes for additional revenues. Let's get that across the line, and then if we need to go into those considerations, let's do that. But those, I mean, I view them as totally separate questions.
Yeah, they are.
Can I ask you what you think? Because you've not said anything yet.
Yeah, well, one thing I've been wanting to say, I appreciate the conversation. One voice I'd also welcome hearing from in this conversation is from Chief, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. I know we aren't making a decision today, so maybe it's unfair to put you on the spot, and it would be more appropriate for you to collect your thoughts and, speak at the next meeting. But if you have anything to say, I just wanted to give you that invitation, because I for one would like to hear from you on this.
Well, first of all, I'll talk about the budget a little bit and the projection. So these projections are not conservative, right? So do I think that the officers are going to get a 4% raise every year for the next 8 years? Probably not, okay? Could we have a situation where we had several years ago where, 30% of the nation's police retired and quit, and yes, wages are going to go up? That could happen. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're seeing more people in the academy. So I'm thinking salaries will be a little bit lower as far as the percentage. I know Rachel has been proactive in going out with healthcare and getting some comparables to see where we can save money. One of the big issues is, the pension. It hasn't been properly funded. And I know Linda, who comes in on Fridays, that Rachel got from Independence Township, is very concerned about the pension, and it has been properly funded for years. So that's a little bit about the budget. I've said this before, you have a very, very good police department. You have great individuals that love Franklin that could probably go somewhere else and get paid more. They like to be here. So you have a good product. But you guys need to do what you feel is best for the village, and I will support that. So I guess I'll just leave it with that. I mean, you got elected by the residents to make the best decisions possible for the village, and I think Rachel also has the village's best interests in mind. And so whatever way I can help, whichever way the wind blows, or you decide, then I will support that. Is there any other questions for me?
Yeah, I have a more specific question too. We're talking about the option of potentially eliminating our own police force and globbing on to a nearby jurisdiction. Have you seen that done before? If so, has that been a successful? Has it been a horror story? Do you have any experiences to share about that, or I've heard of municipalities eliminating their local force and going to the county. Do you have any experience
Sure.
of?
So I used to live in Clarkston, maybe 20 years ago, and I was actually a proponent to get rid of that small police department because it was mostly part-time people, and it was either people right out of the academy or people that are kind of retired, and I wasn't comfortable with their training, and I thought that the county was a better option. And I don't remember what the cost was for that. When I was at West Bloomfield, there was discussions of us taking over the Tri-Cities. There was 2 separate discussions, and I think it made a lot of financial sense for those small communities for us to take them over because of what we brought to the table.
Chief, what's the Tri-Cities?
I'm sorry, Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake, and Kego.
Okay.
There was such an uprising by the residents about they wanted their own police department that that fell apart both times. If you were to look at options here, I would suggest that you did not look at the county, but you would look at probably the best choice would be Bloomfield Township. Whether they would take this on as both Franklin and Bingham Farms, I don't know, because they are, like most departments, short-staffed, but that's, if there was an avenue that you wanted to take, that you would probably look into that avenue.
Is it possible we retain like this physical space and become like an outpost of Bloomfield Township? Is that a viable option? Where it's like, we might be absorbed within that larger structure, but largely retain like.
That would be all part of your negotiations with another entity.
Is there an option why we haven't combined fire and police, like Beverly Hills? Like, we have a separate fire millage and we have a police millage, and it's considered public safety, right?
So public safety is difficult because we would have to train all of our police officers to be paramedics, which is a long process, as also have to send them to fire academy.
Is that what Beverly
which
Hills
is like
does?
$5,000 a person.
And it's more expensive, right?
To have a public, to have that, you have to be able to do both. You have to be able to be
It's
a
very
police officer and a
expensive, too. It's
firefighter.
very expensive. Another thing I'll mention, that if you do get rid of your police department, getting your police department back is almost unheard of. Extremely expensive to do that.
Yeah, so I'm not, I mean, yeah, I was just wondering why Beverly Hills felt it was best to combine.
There was a trend many years ago, I know Kalamazoo did it, some other, Bloomfield Hills did it, where they combined to public safety. These days, the trend is away from that.
Okay.
Is it combined, is it just combined public safety millage, or is it actual?
Are you cross-training?
They're cross-trained. So you're spending more
Everybody
on
has to be able
training.
to do both.
Which
You know,
then.
one day you're a
decreases
police
your-
officer, one day you're a fireman,
Right.
kind of thing.
And that decreases your pool of who you can recruit from as well.
Yes.
Right.
Is there a larger upfront cost to do that, but a less expensive long-term play for that? Meaning like it's more expensive to train and combine the two, but because you combine them, 10 years out, 20 years out, it is an overall decreased cost, even in spite of the
Well, first of
upfront
all,
initial
that's
cost.
not even a scenario here, because our fire department aren't employees of ours. We have a contractual relationship with a 501c3 or C4 organization, so that we would have to first take the idea on of making all of the firefighters employees, make that a department of the village, then we would have to decide if we wanted to make the officers and the firefighters be trained in both areas.
I would guess that you'd probably lose most of your police officers if we went that route. Because they wouldn't want to go to the fire academy and be paramedics and all that.
I wasn't so much thinking of the operations of the amount that we pay in the fire millage and the amount we pay in the police millage. If it could be one pool, you know what I mean? And so we keep our fire department, but you guys take some money.
That would be your guys' decision,
Yeah.
of how you'd want to set that up.
So I want to just kind of focus on my core consideration, which is, what are your feelings on, or what are the added benefits of having a police picking up the budget, the entire police budget, and moving it over into a millage compared to the division between general and police millage?
Well, I think when I sit here and I hear all of your ideas and what you want to do for the village and how many services are lacking, I think if you give me a police millage, and I have my own money that you guys approve and tell me how to spend. And then you reduce the general fund, well, where's the money for all these projects that you want to do? It's not going to be there. So, you know, you have some very difficult decisions that I think is going to be relatively expensive, for sure.
We're
Does that
talking,
answer your question? I mean, maybe I didn't answer it correctly.
I mean, maybe it just is what it is, right? In the sense of administratively, it just, again, allows you to say this to residents, this is how much we cost, here's how I'm fitting within the budget, and there's just clear lines for probably just easier processing, but outside of that, there's probably not much of a difference.
I know you mentioned already that the budget was conservative in some respects and that maybe you overestimated a little bit on some things, which is a normal practice. Do you think there's any opportunity for cost savings in this budget?
Well, the building was built in 2001, and the first time we really did anything with that building was last year, when we did the generator and the HVACs and things like that. There's a lot of things within the building that are listed in the yellow section under capital expenses that really need to be done. Now, you can push that farther down the road, probably, but somewhere within that 8 years, that's gonna have to be done. And those are some relatively large expenses. Vehicle equipment, I mean, we pretty much purchase a new vehicle every year, and the cost of these vehicles is ridiculous, right? So, you know, you're talking, you know, $55,000 for the vehicle, another $15,000 to $20,000 to outfit it. Projecting out to, you know, $2,000, you're gonna be buying a $100,000 patrol car. So it's just a very expensive business that we're in. And obviously, healthcare costs is limited on what we can do. We can try to move it one way or another, a couple percentage points, but
Yeah.
it's the trend nationwide.
That's my question, since like a lot of these are, none of these costs seem to go down, right? They're not like capital investments where you purchase a police car in 27 and then you don't have to purchase one again for 6-7 years. Like we're spending $180,000 a year between auto, car operations, car leasing. Is that typically how it is? Like you don't see older cars in a fleet? I'm just wondering, you know what I mean? Like, so that way we can tell our constituents, like, well, we buy a new police car every year and it costs $100K.
Well.
And there's like, why do you need a
have
new
one
car every year?
that you'll have for 4 years. You know, we probably try to put a minimum of 80,000, 90,000 miles, but remember, it's also idling a lot. So you're probably putting more like 130, 140,000. I have that information. I did this at
Yeah.
West Bloomfield. So it's amazing amount of wear and tear on these vehicles because they're just driving and idling. So I did put some things in place where they can't idle the vehicles if it's nice weather. It's only if it's really cold or super hot because we got to try to keep the computers and the cameras working, so.
Okay.
The biggest line items, retirement and health insurance,
Right.
right?
And I can't do anything about that, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I don't take a pension if that helps, I don't.
Chief, I just want to acknowledge, like, none of the discussion tonight has anything to do with your department. It has everything to do with
I understand.
fiscal
It's business.
responsibility. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I would just like to say that I might have been criticized for using the word trust in leading this village, but anybody who's been part of an executive team that where trust is not present understands how important that level of confidence is in colleagues. And I defend my right to say that. I think we do trust you. We need to trust you. And otherwise, we're going to have to hire an analyst to follow you around and verify all of your projections. So, thanks. And I want to also say that as part of this budget discussion, you know, I'm really glad that we're able to ask you questions about how you're operating your department without you becoming angry and retaliatory.
He is armed, and
No,
No, I mean, I completely agree with you, Pam, totally, because again, it's the same thing like when we went through the appointment processes, like I said, it's the worst part of the job because we have to be able to have hard conversations civilly.
Yeah.
Both up here, but also how it's received. And so I think that that's of the utmost importance. So again, thank you so much, because it's not just the value of you yourself, which you're tremendous, but every single one of our officers is such an asset. And I feel incredibly lucky to have the people and the actual human beings that are there. So again, I just want to emphasize the point that Pam was making, the point that Abby was making, that this conversation is just looking at the dollars, but by all means, like, thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Chief, is there anything that we're missing or that we're not offering our constituents that with this millage you'd be able to offer?
Additional?
Yeah, so we can say like this,
So this budget.
yeah.
This budget.
Besides funding the pension of
Right,
previous
this budget's
officers.
built off a 12-officer police department. If you decided to take it back down to 11, that's a viable option. We can do that. It does make it tight. I mean, last year we had an officer leave us that was on administrative leave for quite some time, which created a lot of overtime. This year we had another officer that was out for quite a bit of time on an injury. So it does leave us a little bit short. But if we wanted to go down to 11, if that would help, we could probably discuss that. But this is based off a 12-person police department.
I'm looking at more, like would we be able to give our constituents more?
Do you have something in mind?
No,
They would-
I don't know. I mean, I'm just asking, so like if they're like, oh, are we gonna get, you know, I don't know, like
Personally, I
block
think
party patrol when
we're
we
just-
have our.
But we're conflating the issue, right? Like, that's the problem, is that no, he really can't offer more because we're not increasing the amount of mills that are going to the police force. We're just pulling it out of the general fund. So for the police force to offer more, we would have to allocate more to them, either by increasing the overall millage or pulling more out of the general and moving it there. That's my point.
Is there more other cities offer that you would like to offer in Franklin that you feel like we're missing? No. Okay.
But you really want that drone.
I was gonna say, the drone.
Not anymore, he doesn't.
She's like,
Anybody else?
I want to
wanna
acknowledge this
discuss?
is all out of respect. I have nothing against this discussion or how things are being run. It is just, sometimes you gotta have hard decisions, and sometimes you have to have hard discussions, and sometimes you have to poke around things, and sometimes you have to consider the uncomfortable.
Finance committee
It
meeting.
is not a comfortable situation that we're in. I don't think any of us would agree that that's the case. And so it is the responsible thing to do to poke at this problem from every single angle we can. That's all.
Okay, finance committee meets Wednesday, so Wednesday, maybe we'll get in more detail, some of the requests that council's asking as far as generating some of these analyses that everyone's looking for, cost analyses, savings. Let's talk about that at finance committee. Okay?
I am particularly interested in, what does this look like from the voter's perspective? You know, it's one thing for us to worry about line items in a budget, which we do. But we're really about educating voters and convincing them to vote yes on whatever we end up proposing to them to fund the operations of the village and the police department. So as you create those analyses, I really would appreciate if you'd look at it from that perspective. And I see the strategic issues needing to be dealt with, but as a separate activity, and looking forward to doing that.
Okay. All right, so that's the extent of our new business. The next two items on our agenda are both to have us go into closed session to discuss attorney-client opinions drafted by the Kelly firm. And then we would come back out for reports. So I'm going to move that we first go into closed session to discuss an attorney-client opinion drafted by the Kelly firm.
Second?
A motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Actually, we have to do this roll call, don't we? Yep, we have to do a roll call.
When they approve it.
Yep.
Hanson,
Aye.
Velasquez,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Dolly. Aye. Bates.
Aye.
Eric.
Yes.
Mulder.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Come back in out of closed session at 8:20. And what remains on the agenda are council reports. I have nothing to report today. Anybody have anything they want to say?
The only,
No, go.
only thing I was gonna say is I attended the couple next board meetings for Dan, who was not there. Mostly discussions about the lease at 400 Lincoln. That has been at the Birmingham Commission a couple times since then. They're effectively moving forward. I think in the last commission meeting, they voted to approve the lease for their first floor move into 400 East Lincoln. So, you know, they have to be out of, what is it?
Midvale.
Midvale by May 27.
Okay.
Pertinent to us, they will likely look to renegotiate the interlocal agreement for starting in May 27.
For more money.
I asked for what that might look like. I didn't get a firm answer, but I would be surprised if it was less money.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Since it's zero. Thank you. No, the
Isn't it
beauty of-
10,000?
Well, but that's not mandated. That's at our initiative, which we can change anytime we want to, but, yeah.
So,
Sorry, I don't
uh,
want to interrupt.
only, I guess, I don't know, do you want to say anything else? Or I'm done, sorry. I know you wanted to talk.
Oh, sorry. So one thing, are we gonna add committee reports to the agenda? Or when not this meeting, but just so we know? Because I know that at the special priorities meeting, we talked about updating on the special priorities at the council meeting by committee. Or are we gonna wait till after the budget season?
I'm not trying to understand the question.
Like infrastructure committee. update.
Next or?
Well, that's what sort of the last one is, committee liaison reports.
Oh, okay. So just want to recognize that March is Women's History Month. It's important, obviously, to have parity on all of our boards, and just encourage more females in leadership. The public restroom, do we think that may be open by baseball season?
Yes.
Okay.
We will be able to open them.
Okay, because there was like 100 people here yesterday, and the bathroom wasn't open, and then the library wasn't open, and the police station wasn't open. Walked my kids over to the porta potty. Okay, and then I just want to make a statement that I want to make everyone aware of an automated text message that went out using my name to ask some residents about community issues. The message was sent by a third-party system and was not reviewed or authorized by me. Once I became aware of it, I took immediate steps to stop the outreach. I also filed a police report. I respect your privacy and take this matter seriously. If you receive the message, no response is necessary. I am committed to secure and open communication and sincerely apologize for any confusion or concern this may have caused. Thank you.
Thank you. Abby? Pam?
You can go ahead.
Pam?
I also wanted to comment on Women's History Month. I generally take a jaded view of months and weeks, but I do celebrate my birthday for a month, so I think, this is okay. So the question really for designated holidays or events is really, why is it important? And why should all of us, regardless of our age or gender, take this seriously? All of us get mailings and read, perspectives on women. And what I found is just a couple of points that I wanted to make in this regard. It is really about understanding the contributions and the struggles of women in our history. I think that no one would argue with the fact that for those, as we look back on what we were taught and weren't taught in high school, in elementary school, middle school, the presence of women is not as powerful and not as present as the presence of men, particularly white men, in shaping our country. We're all paying a lot of attention right now to, I mean, how many of us have reread the Constitution recently because we've had to, and because we need to be part of that dialogue about protecting democracy. My perspective is that designations such as Women's History Month, Women's Day on March 8th, is really to call attention to that and to continue to bring the contributions of women into the conversation with our children, and those of us who are in policy roles, that we do what we can do to address pay gaps. We've done that in our village. We did that a few years ago, and we have made a commitment, for example, to have parity with other communities, and remedy positions in the village which have not been at parity with other similar positions. And we've also, because we've got 3 women on council and a woman administrator, I think it's easier to have those conversations because women aren't overlooked the way they were at one point and talked over. It's really tough to talk over this group of women on this council, as it should be. And that's an example of something all of us need to pay attention to. So I feel pretty passionately about this, and thanks for the opportunity to speak to it, because I think all of us can be leaders. We're all responsible to grow our daughters into leaders, and we all do that individually and should continue to do that. So,
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
You're here.
Great.
Do we want to take a vote to designate March Women's History Month with a proclamation?
Women's History Month has been claimed on the month by presidential proclamation. We could do something in the village, but I think we're probably covered, unless you wanted to do something special.
I think it's worthwhile. That was a good speech you gave. We did it last month. Yeah.
I think I'd vote for something special too.
We have a lot of girl dads and girl moms on this.
We have girl dads
council.
and girl moms, absolutely,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing, because I think the council sets a tone in the village, and if we're concerned about how we all raise our children, good. That means other people will think about that as well and consider it important. So I'll make go
Okay,
ahead.
no, I was just saying, then let's go ahead and make a motion to declare, notwithstanding what the federal government has done, to declare that in Franklin, March is,
Women's History Month, so moved.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Are you gonna ask for
Is
the name?
anybody opposed?
Not even, not even gonna ask. I live in a-
Says the
I
girl
live in a-
dad.
I live in a household where if I even brought the nay up, I probably wouldn't go home tonight.
One quick thing, just, I will give a committee liaison report, but also just as an announcement and general awareness for villagers, when does yard waste pickup start now with the nice weather?
Great question.
Isn't it the first Sunday in April?
I think it's the first Sunday in April, but if
It's on the website,
if
right?
we could send that out in the villager, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Good idea.
One other thing, just that I've heard that other communities do, that we should take advantage of, is we pay to send a tax bill to every single resident twice a year. Other communities add other PSAs in that communication. That would be a great place twice a year to say, hey, we still need your email address.
We have a plan to do that.
But
Right.
just so you know, that's two sort of free, not free, but
It's already paid
we're spending the money anyways, opportunities that I got something from my business and I'm like, there's like 3, like, oh, okay. So I'm like, you can do that?
You can. You cannot include anything in the school collection though, but in the other two you can.
Awesome. So let's maybe take advantage of that. Anybody else have anything to discuss? All right. If anyone wants to make a motion to adjourn.
Nope, real quick.
Oh,
I got my committee liaison
oh,
report.
please.
Yeah, so providing the report for Planning Commission, I talked with, well, I guess for general awareness, one of the things that we talked about for increasing efficiencies of these meetings is providing opportunities for any of our reports from officers, including, or representatives from Main Street Planning to provide a written report rather than coming and attending in person, or I offered personally to just deliver the report as well. So I talked with Stuart, he was really grateful for that. Evan reached out and notified him, and then him and I had a subsequent conversation. And so one, first of all, just wanted to raise awareness that he's very appreciative of that. And then second of all, that he had raised that any major decisions or with any real progressions in the Planning Commission, that he would want to attend in person. For general updates from the Planning Commission itself, the majority of the, actually all of the conversation from the last Planning Commission meeting was around the nuisance abatement. They were, they took the feedback and are focused on the things that we prioritized. One of the things that I had a conversation separate with Stuart, and then it came up at the Planning Commission itself is, and just for general awareness based off of what we received back, is that the nuisance from rubbish in yard is one of the reasons that it didn't initially come on the list as a priority was difficulty in establishing the threshold for it. I used the example of how do you create the material difference between the kid leaving his soccer nets up in the backyard compared to somebody having a knockdown metal tin sitting there for decades, right? And so how do you, drawing those thresholds between what is general community compared to what is actually a nuisance is something that they're mindful of. Of course, they're going to do their due diligence and look at how other communities are addressing, but something that I appreciated. I still think that our priorities that we have listed out are the right priorities, but we'll see what they come back with.
Interesting perspective.
And then I think the other item was around the, I'm drawing a blank. What's the name of the, we are still in progression. He said it's with the administration for the planning. What's their major? I'm totally blanking.
Master
What's the
plan?
master plan? There we go. So there's been no update from the Planning Commission, but it's, I believe, with.
It's with me.
Okay.
I am reading through it.
Yep.
Checking it for errors.
Perfect. No issue.
Oh, yeah, because that was gonna come on the agenda for acceptance, I think.
Mhm.
Okay. Next one?
That's the last step, but there's a couple errors that
Okay.
can be straightened out.
Yep. So we'll get that handled.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved, second by Sally. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone.